tell you, it wouldn't be a podcast without. All right, I think we have him back. Ian, how you doing?
Yeah. Hi, Darryl. Hi.
Don't know what happened. I'm not sure what happened, but we're back.
No, we're just glad you're here, and we're glad that you've decided to join the show and speak with us today.
Well, I want to thank you guys for the invite, and I want to thank you for all you're doing to sort of get the word out about bowling to all the people that come in from around the world to your show. So congratulations, and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Darryl. Go ahead, Luke. Oh, you got it, man.
I guess we'll start it off with Ian. Who are you today?
Well, the same as I was yesterday, Luke.
Well, that's good. I hope that's good.
Well, I'm thinking to myself, this is day 95, and I'm beginning to wonder sometimes whether I really know what day it is. They just seem to be blurring. But all that said, I'd like to think that even though the years have advanced, I try really hard to stay to my values and principles as best I can. And they're part of the reason why I moved to the admin side of Bowls. I grew up in a culture where, when I was quite young, I joined an organization called the JCs, and they have in their creed, service to others is the best work of life. That's not exactly what it is, but it is essentially the same. And I really believed in that, and that comes from a culture that goes through my parents and grandparents, and as far as I know, my great-grandparents. So from what I've done on the reading side, so who am I today? I'm basically the same guy. I really think that anything that I've accomplished in life has been the result of a team, and sometimes I just got pushed in front of the team, but the credit more often than not goes to the team. Okay, I come up with some ideas from time to time, but it's amazing. It's amazing that the teamwork that goes on in sort of any organization, that you can't really take the credit, so you've got to share the credit. And anyhow, who am I today? I hope to think that I'm basically the same guy as yesterday, but with a little bit more maturity.
So Ian, Luke mentioned in the little intro that you're currently the president of Bowls Canada, and you're a newly elected member of the World Bowls Board. Am I getting that terminology correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So I just wanted to ask you, as far as your role at World Bowls, being the Canadian representative, especially an important representative for North America as a whole, what from your background or what from your journey in bowls makes you a good ambassador for Canada at the World Bowls level?
Well, thanks, Darryl. It's going to be interesting to see whether I am a good ambassador. The first board meeting I'm attending is tomorrow morning. I have to be up at 6 o'clock to join the conversation because there's people from around the world. But I think that one of the thoughts that was going through my mind is that I've had such international experience, particularly in Europe, Australia, Canada, and the United States, that I think I understand something about how people get hold of different ideas, and they come from a nationalistic background. I think that World Bowls is trying to talk to all bowlers in all countries.
Right.
And I think that I understand sometimes the nuances of why somebody says something or what they're trying to achieve. So that in that respect, being at the table, I think I can make a contribution. My title is Regional Director for the Americas, which includes North America and South America.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we have Brazil, Argentina, a development nation, Falkland, and we're working with Jamaica to get them up and running. So that's the South America side, and of course in the North America side we've got United States and Canada. They're much more established. But I think there's going to be a lot of challenges. So I think that the background that I had of starting up companies in Europe in particular, and turning around companies in the United States, Australia, here, and in England in particular, sort of is a good blend, and it'll give me a good understanding of some of the new directions that World Bowls will have to take as a result of the pandemic that we're in the middle of right now.
Well, with I guess I'll ask you this next one, Ian. With Father's Day being tomorrow, tell us a little bit about your father and his impact on you and bowls in general.
Well, there's two parts to that question that I'd like to sort of dissect a little bit. Probably the greatest influence was actually my mother. She took to the game of bowls like a duck takes to water, so to speak, and did extremely well. They were living in Papua New Guinea at the time, and so she played it, and they put together a Papua New Guinea team to play in the First Ladies Bowls event in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Back in 1973. And at the last minute, she was playing triples, and at the last minute, they had to substitute somebody, having won every game, and in the final, they lost. Now, I'm not blaming the substitute, but it's the way the game goes. So she got a silver there, and she basically retired from competitive bowling. She played a little bit here and there, but she taught me so much by that. She encouraged me to play the game, get out there and have fun. It's a game I can play, she said, and she kept on sending me materials, and I sort of worked out why she didn't want to play. She was the type of lady that said, "Okay, I've had my turn at the top of the hill, so to speak, and someone else can have a go." So she was a big influence, and it's I can't have a conversation about bowls without my mother.
Yeah.
I sponsor a tournament in the Oakville Club in her name. So turning to your question, Luke, the influence my father has had has been to have a conversation with him. He's turning 101 shortly, all being well.
Wow.
If he gets there. And just a quick digression, I had a game with him last year in Australia. He was 101 in 2 days or something, and we had a little roll up, and guess what? He beat me. but he and I both know that he had to win, but he really put down some great bowls. They were so close to the jack, and his bowling style and delivery is still fantastic. He taught, the impact that he had on me was, if you're going to do something, try and do it well. And he wrote a little book about the joy of the perfect delivery in bowls, and we worked on that together for a while, and he put it out, and we've sold 100 or so copies, and had lots of accolades for it. And he wanted that practice makes perfect, he said, but perfect practice makes perfect, and consistent practice makes perfect. And you can't practice really well today and then take a week off. He was the kind of person, or he is still the kind of person, that says that you need to be at what you're doing every day. His impact on me was quite considerable when I started the game, even though as I said before we got started here, I was playing with a set of Dunlop size 5, and I didn't have a clue. And then I asked him about it, and we started to engage each other in conversation. He was giving some good advice, and at the same time, I think he was reliving a little bit of his past, because when I think it was around 94 years old or something at that time, you don't have much to look forward to. And I think that the conversations we had were helpful to him and to me. But some of the conversations would last several hours, and then he would somehow or other get me to angle the laptop, and so he could see me and show me your delivery. So he was really tough on me. He was tough as a kid, trying to get me to do this and to do that, and I rebelled. quite naturally, like a lot of young men and women do. But his impact was that he believes still to this day that coaching is one of the most underrated parts of bowls. He said you can't do enough in coaching. He taught coaching at a college, like I don't know what kind of college you have around near you, but we have in the Toronto area, Sheridan Centennial College, where people go to take specific courses, trade courses or whatever. And he taught there for, I think it was 3 years, and he had hundreds of kids come through the program. But so coaching, and I've spent time in coaching. I've read a lot about coaching. I've read more about coaching than I think I've played the game. So that was really good because I started to understand the mental side of the game. And so that impact was really, really meaningful. But I somehow or other gravitated more to the admin side simply because it's been part of my life for so long. I got my first job when I was 5 years old. I had to go and make a sales pitch to get the job. I got the job, and I got paid every day. That was one of my conditions. And I just think the business side just has eclipsed the playing side because, and it's to my regret, I really love to be able to go out and play on a nice sunny afternoon, playing with some good friends, whether it's competitive or it's just having a roll-up. I really have had a very, very tough time playing casual games. I don't know what it is in me that does that, but anyhow, I do like to have a competitive game. And so his impact on me is if you're going to do something, do it well. And if you're going to practice, you really got to work at that too. So I don't know if I'm going on a little bit here. I don't want to be too verbose, but
that's all right.
But he has had a remarkable influence on me, and I'm glad to say that he's influenced a lot of people in the bowls world, especially around Broadbeach area in Australia.
That's good to hear. I know I've read the book that you mentioned, and I think it's great. And we've had conversations over the years on and off about coaching and about bowls development and special stuff. So I can tell that you're very passionate about the sport, and you can hear it in just the way that you talk about it.
Thank you.
So talking about the admin side, where you say that you've kind of leaned towards, I know you've been at like the club level, OLBA, which is the Ontario Lawn Bowls Association for our province, Bowls Canada, you're the current president, and then World Bowls. What's led you down the path to go through those various levels and just keep pushing to go all the way with World Bowls?
Well, I could be a bit glib and say my nose. I followed my nose, Darryl. But there's a little bit of truth in that. I'm not quite sure what drives people. It's a fascinating conversation to have if we had the time to do it, and maybe we will one day.
Yeah.
What motivates people and what drives them forward is very mysterious as far as I'm concerned. I'm fortunate enough to have coffee twice a week with about 20 of my longtime friends in Oakville, and they come from all walks of life, and they've accomplished all kinds of things. I don't think anyone's climbed Mount Everest, but goodness gracious me, they're a very accomplished bunch of people. And trying to understand what's motivated them to do what they've done is a joy. So when I try and look at myself and say, why did I want to become the leader of the Cub Pack? I don't know. Why did I want to become the leader of the Boy Scout Pack? I don't know. Why did I want to get the most badges in Cubs and in Scouts? I have no idea. How did I get my job when I started with KTEL? I know exactly how that happened because I was walking along the street and I bumped into the president of the company who I'd met a few years earlier. And he said, "Do you want to come work for me?" I said, "I'm not going to go to Winnipeg." But he said, "Okay, well, we'll talk about it." And then he called me up and said, "Do you want to go to England?" So in that sense, that was a serendipity moment. But for the other things, I really have followed my nose and not really planned that I want to be here on such and such a time. I want to be here on such and such a date. I've really, I really tried to do my best at each level, and then I can say, well, I've done that. Now, what else can I do? I just don't really know how to answer it other than that. Some people plan out their lives. Some people plan out their lives, Darryl, and they hit their targets and goals, and sometimes they're totally disappointed and become bitter and miserable. So a good friend of mine, a mentor, I asked him this same question many years ago, and he said he followed his nose. And I said, well, if I'm doing the right thing, because that's all I've been doing.
Now, Ian, you said you've been on the admin side of bowls for quite a while, but a question that we had for you was, what's your favorite event that you've ever had the opportunity to participate in?
I knew you were going to ask that, Luke. And so I tried to give it some deep thought as to say, what was the game what event that I played that really sticks in my mind. And there's so many of them, so many memorable moments, so many times when I recall one time I was skipping that I had to put my bowl and the jack was 1 inch from the ditch, and I had to put my bowl right on the jack to score one, because the other bowls from my competitors were scoring at that time, and they were scoring, I think they had 3 shots, and they were going to win by 2 or something like that. And my ball went right to the jack and went to the ditch and flopped over. It just flopped into the ditch, but really memorable, and I really enjoyed it. So it's not a case that the team we won, but I got more satisfaction, and the team were really appreciative. It was a shot that I recall very easily. And then the other time I say to myself, well, I was going to play short mat for Canada. We were trying to get short mat going in Canada, and Dave Burrows put together a team, and you paid your money, you took your chances, and we went off, and I went off as sick as a dog. I shouldn't have gone. My doctor said you shouldn't go, but I put a lot of prescription stuff in me, and I took my chances, and what an experience. Probably one of the best experiences. The other experience that I really, as a highlight of what when I played, is going down to play the Australian Open in 2016, and having a bit of a, because I got there early, I had family there, and I stayed with him, no charge, and my dad had come up from where his retirement home, and we were all sort of all bunked in together, and we went down to the club before the Open started, and I had a roll, and I put one of my bowls down facing towards the Indian Ocean, and the last report I had that it's almost there. So what was this? And I said to myself, wow, these greens are fast compared to 8 or 9 seconds at my club. Then a few days later, I played the Australian Open, and I didn't get out of the section, and I played some club champions. And I said to myself, the club champions here are really, really good. They're at a very high level. And I think I learned a lot from it. By the third game, I was challenging my opponent because I was really taking the weight off and working things out. So that's very memorable. But probably, apart from the odd game here or there, as I say, I haven't played all that much. But I did put together a triples team, and we played at the novice triples at Hanover. And in the first day, we won our 3 games, and then we were heading home. But the differential that we had was the highest of all the groups of 3. I think there were 4 groups of 3 or something like that. And so we were pretty excited, pretty much looking forward to Sunday. Well, Sunday came around, and it was probably the most humiliating day. I think we lost by all the points that we won, and I think we scored 2. So it was like completely reverse. And boy, did I ever have a lesson in how this great game works. It's a very humbling, you've got to really be on your game. You really got to think straight, and you've got to adapt and adjust time and time again. So there's 3 different experiences, plus the time that I had to put that bowl 1 inch from the ditch and be near where the jack was. But I've had experiences that are like that. But I've had some what I would say overall really good experience of playing in the Thursday night league at Burlington. I would venture that league is certainly in the first division is probably as tough as you'll find. There's some really, really good players, and you don't even know their names, but they're at a very, very high level. So I think that each time I go out with the hope that I can, at least if I'm playing a team, that I can do my bit. And if I'm, for some reason, playing short mat at that Burlington, not the short mat, the singles game at Burlington there, I haven't played for a few years, but I just go out with the hope that I can enjoy myself and challenge my opponent. So, Luke, a lot of different games, different scenarios, and it just adds to my enjoyment of the game. I practice every day in my basement here, and I think COVID is one thing I've got to thank COVID for. Not too much I've got to thank them for, but is that I've had a rest and my back has eased up a bit. So I think there's a lot to be said for the game and how exciting it is. Otherwise, why would I bother practicing every day? I don't practice for hours, but 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. If I walk past this little practice setup I have, I pull up a bowl and give it a roll, and I have a target, and it bounces back to me. And so my favorite game is every game I play.
There you go.
Awesome.
So Ian, you talked about a lot of different experiences. So you've seen just how fast the greens are down in Australia. You know how varied our greens are here, from slow to somewhat faster. I'm just wondering, based on your experiences and your role with Bowls Canada and with World Bowls, where do you see Canadian bowls going? And is there a good way that you see to try and grow the sport?
This was the question you were kind enough to give me an idea of what you were talking about. And I was going to ask this one not be asked. So maybe I should stick with my first instinct. But one of the things that I will attempt to answer your question, one of the parts of the question, Darryl, is that Charlie Roach, who does the greens for Burlington and is on the board of OLBA for green care management, he and I were talking one day, and I said, we really got to advance how we look after greens.
Right.
So without a green that plays well, people get tired, they get frustrated if they can't get to the hog lines. Now that's a bit severe, but some people can't get much past and then if it gets too fast, a new bowler can't handle it, and they say, I can't play this game. So trying to find a happy medium for the greens is a challenge. But where the game could go, we've got to recognize that this country, Canada, has 8 months cold and 4 months hot, and sometimes when it's hot, it's too hot for the average person in our demographics. Our demographics are a little bit older than, say, Australia and New Zealand, and I would imagine South Africa. But we need to think, at least in Eastern Canada, how can we get a world-class indoor facility established? There is one in British Columbia, and but the bulk of the bowlers are in Eastern Canada. They have got very passionate bowlers out in British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, etc., Manitoba. But we've got more people in Ontario, and we don't have a world-class facility. So I think that we need to work out how we can have better greens, whether it means that we've got to have a better mix of turf and artificial. How do we get an indoor facility here that enables our top bowlers to play year round, let's say, or play frequently year round, even if not every day kind of thing. And I think we need to look at the game, and I hesitate to say this because this is really a situation, it's personal view, but I think somehow or other we've got to speed up the way the game is played. And I'm not quite sure that everyone would buy into my philosophy, but in Premier League when we play set play, it's much faster, and I think we need to think about that. And it may only appeal to the people that want to play competitively, that they would like to see it speed up. Maybe some people would like to see the social afternoon start at 12 o'clock and finish at 5 and have afternoon tea in the middle. So it's trying to understand just what the needs of the people are. But I think there's room for innovation. We've innovated in going from wooden bowls to polymer. We've gone from black and brown to coloured bowls, multicolored bowls. We've got the respot rule. Some people like it, some people don't. I think there's room for conversation in that. There may be room for saying we still have the respot, but the respot is not always in a fixed position. I think there's room for innovation, but the basic game of bowls is a target game. And your skill is being able to get to the jack, let's say, and in a way that you have advantage over your opponent. So that won't change, but there are other ways that we could make it exciting. We could introduce barefoot bowls in every club in Ontario, which would make it more fun, and more young people might come out on a Friday or Saturday night, and they will join clubs. I think there's so much room for conversation in your question, Darryl, that it's one of those things that I wish COVID wasn't here. And well, maybe we can do it now. It's safe distancing. Is jump in the car and come down and chat with you about it. I don't know where the conversation might go, but I think it needs to be expanded from the conversations we're having now.
Speaking a little bit about COVID, Ian, what do you hope for Canada and all countries coming out of the pandemic, and how do you think bowls might rebound in the country?
Another one of these tough questions. Who brought you onto this show in this partnership? Dear, oh dear. Well, first of all, I think that people ought to be taking the time to be reflective of what it is that the game is doing in their club. If you come down to the grassroots level, down to the club level, what are you doing in your club that's going to bring bowlers back? Because many of them must be somewhat scared of playing the game this season, and maybe they'll start thinking, I don't know if I want to play it next season. So what can you do today to make your club desirable to the people coming back, and how can you make it attractive for people that are still out there wandering around, taking early retirement, taking retirement? What are they going to do for a sport? This morning at my coffee group, this guy was waxing lyrically about the game of golf and how much he's enjoying it. I said, well, his name's Bill. I said, Bill, have you ever tried bowls? He said, well, I was about to go down to the local club, and I found out it's shut for a while. And we talked about it. And but he remains interested. But what is the club going to do to keep his interest? Because it's going to be, I think, some time before we get back there. So each club should be looking at how can you make a fun event now? Could you have a barbecue that's safe distancing? Could you have, I don't think you necessarily have to go back to play, but if you build a community, if you build the spirit of community, you will have the people wanting to be around each other and enjoying each other's company. And that will lead to wanting to come back later in this season, hopefully, or certainly next season without any fear and trepidation about how things are going to work. But around the world, these questions, I think, are getting asked now, and Bowls Canada is certainly going to be looking to post-pandemic what we can do. So I can put the question back to you. If you've got anything on your mind, Luke, send them in, because all good ideas are going to be listened to.
Fair enough.
Good. So Ian, I'll give you a side question. This I thought of this question while we were chatting just before the show. I think it's right up your alley. But on this show, Luke and I have always, I think even in our first episode, we've said that when we have champions, and right now we're kind of on a pause, but we want to celebrate champions and we want to celebrate the people that are doing great things in our sport. One thing that I think was really dear to you, and I know was really special to a lot of people in our province of Ontario, is the OLBA Hall of Fame. What does that mean to you, having the Hall of Fame now in Ontario?
Well, thanks for that question, Darryl. I couldn't have thought of that and sent it to you with a big thank you note. It's probably one of the best questions that I've had for a long time. Not so tough as the other ones that you've been asking, but I just want to give credit to the genesis of the idea. It came from sitting next to Steve Santana at a Bowls Canada meeting, and we got talking about things. And I said, "What's your biggest frustration?" He said, "We don't celebrate our champions enough in Canada." I said, "Well, maybe it's the Canadian way." And we had a little laugh and one thing and another. I walked away from that and then started working away on my mind, and I said, yeah, that's the difference. There's a Canadian Sports Hall of Fame, and there's a Canadian Football Sports Hall of Fame, and so on and so forth. And I said, it's just got to come together. And at that time, I sort of had a pretty loosey kind of role as a director on OLBA, and so I had a little bit of freedom to explore things. And so I went to the then president, Ken Simpson, and said, well, this is what I'd like to do. And he said, well, put some stuff on paper and get a motion passed and go ahead and do it. So it's sort of, once again, a little bit following one's nose. But what's it really mean to me? It means that in celebrating our champions, we recognize that some people have put a long time into the game to achieve the best that they can be in a sport that they love and enjoy. So I think that's worthy, especially it's worthy when they excel and go to play internationally. Some of our players have been fortunate enough to go to Commonwealth Games and win at Commonwealth Games, played world events and have won there. So I think it's just a recognition that your hard work, your dedication, your devotion and love of the game is recognized in part by your peers. We when we were putting together the criteria, I leaned very heavily on Mike Bester. That's Ryan's brother, for those that don't know. And Mike and I been talking, coffeeing together and working together. And so I said, Mike, this is what I want to do. And so let's work out some criteria. And he was kind enough to sort of put some time and energy into that. And so what it's come to mean to me is that we're kind of thanking people for bringing the sport to the public's attention. Even though we don't get as much media as we should, at least we have something to talk about. And the other part about it is, which is a really big part, the families can celebrate the success of their family member that gets elected into the Hall of Fame. Now, we're a long ways from being fancy-dancy like some of the other Halls of Fame. We've got a lot of work to do. We've got to sort out budgets, and we've got to make it a little bit more gala in its format, so we have a little bit more razzum, jazzmatazz, and all that stuff. But to be able to honor excellence is a special feeling. Sometimes at the Hall of Fame, and I've sort of been the master of ceremonies, sometimes I'd just like to sit back and listen, and which I do, of course, when they make the speeches, but listen to the whole evening. So maybe you guys could put it on your podcast one time the whole night.
Yeah.
So just a thought, but it really is something to be able to say, we recognize excellence. Now that's the competitive bowler is getting recognized, and we also go out and recognize people that sort of work behind the scenes. We did Dan Milligan, who's put essentially a lifetime of dedication to the game behind the scenes, and then we had Lloyd Woods, who put a lifetime of excellence into green care management. They got elected to the Hall of Fame as builders of the game, and now we're going to try and expand it to who is the Greenkeeper of the Year, and we want to go past that. We want to make this a very special event. Other sports have it. We should too, and we do, and we want to grow it. And next year, some of the things we're talking about right now to go along the way that I'm suggesting, it's going to be a bigger, more fun event than it has been. I don't know if that answers the question a bit, but
it does.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right. Well, I don't know if I have any other super difficult ones for Ian, but we could do.
Okay,
we could do my quick little rapid fire questions here if you're ready for those. We could go with those.
You guys are running this horse race, and I'm just following.
Alrighty. Well, let's go outside of bowls for a minute. What do you think your favorite, whether you played or watched, what's your favorite sports memory outside of the game of bowls?
I've been fortunate to play a number of sports and have moments of, wow, that happened to me, pinch me. I played paddle tennis and won. I took up curling and was on the winning team at the club. Squash, I played a challenge match against a Canadian champion, won. So I just love sports. In many ways, if business hadn't got hold of me, perhaps I would have spent my time in sports, or I don't know that I'm good enough to go to the world, something like that, but certainly would have been more involved in sports because it's so reflective of the good stuff in life. If you want to make it something different, like some people do, and they go down some very dark alleys, that's a shame. But the sports is a good way to live your life. So once again, I don't know if I answered the question.
Oh, that's all right. I know you said you got to travel quite a bit. What's your favorite place you've ever been, if you could pick one?
If I could ever pick one. Well, of course, I like anywhere where my family is. That's a given. But going past the obvious, I still have I still love Sydney. It's such a beautiful city. You've been there, I presume, have you, Luke?
I've never been to Sydney, no.
Well, next time you play out in Australia, make sure you get to Sydney. It's probably it's as pretty a place as you'll ever find. But of all the places I've been, I really haven't found an ugly one. I've been to some places that are pretty awful, but not ugly. So Sydney would be, other than where my family are, Sydney's my favorite spot.
All right, and I got one more for you. When you're playing the game of bowls, do you have any superstitions?
No.
No. All righty.
I think that's the worst. That's the worst thing someone can do. I do have little routines. I change my socks in between each game.
Yeah, having bad superstitions. I know all about that. We've talked about it a few times on the show. I got this old pair of bowl shoes that make me very, very sore, but I won't get rid of them because they're my lucky shoes.
Yeah, I don't. It's all in your head, Luke, and that's how.
I know.
So I change my socks only because it refreshes my feet, and you stand on your feet for so long. But if I didn't change my socks, I don't really care. I don't really care if I rip my pants in half. I don't really care. But what I do care is that I'm doing as best I can. That's am I doing best as I can given the circumstances? So no, I don't have any.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right, Luke. Ian, I think that's actually a perfect place to stop the interview. Just with the remark, do the best you can. I think that's something that we push in this podcast as well, is just try to achieve the best that you can for whatever level that you want to get to. So I really want to thank you for being on the podcast today.
Well, I want to thank you, Darryl, and you, Luke. Your questions are good. I wish you tremendous amount of success going forward. I think you could go to a wider audience with your partnership here, and it was a bit of a joke, but if you had some thoughts about helping us out at the Hall of Fame, I think that would be awesome.
Yep.
You could take some of the elected people to the Hall of Fame off to one side and perhaps interview them. You would come up with your own ideas. That just a thought, but yeah, you're onto something here, and I wish you a lot of success. How you can get some international people? Maybe you get a Kelvin Kirkow or get Ryan Bester on the show next week or something like that, or take your show across the country. I just wish you a tremendous amount of success, and I thank you for taking the time to try and expose a little bit more about World Bowls, which I don't think people know very much about in Canada. Yeah. So if we've done a little bit in that department, we've done good. So once again, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ian, and have a great rest of your day, and happy Father's Day.
Okay, well, thanks, Luke, and we'll catch you soon. Thanks, Darryl. We'll catch you soon.
All right, thanks, Ian.
Are you signing us off?
We're signing off. Have a good day, Ian.
Thanks. Good weekend. Bye. Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty, Darryl, that was a good one.
It was.
It was a little bit of a different one for us. Not an athlete per se, as some of the other players. So I shouldn't say that. Not as much of more of a player side than some of our other guests in the past. So it was nice to kind of see the other side of the coin. Hear a little bit about that.